我が名は闇の先導者ブラスターダーク
Hello YouTube, this is Garrett of Stacks Gaming. So I thought I would grace my presence on this wonderful channel with a deck profile of one of my favorite clans of Cardfight Vanguard, which is the Shadow Paladin clan. They recently came out in Strongest AO4, and they're definitely a hype clan, if I do say so myself. Indeed one of the strongest force clans. I'm not sure about the strongest. I feel like you could make an argument for Spike Brothers or Dimension Police. But even then, Shadow Paladins are very strong and definitely should be slept on coming into these upcoming regionals. So I'm going to go into depth of my deck. It's pretty straightforward, honestly. So the trigger lineup is 4 Darkside Trumpeter, 2 Death Feather Eagle, 4 this healer, 2 Howl Owl, and 4 Dark Shield Backleer. 6 crit, 6 draw, 4 heal. The reason why you definitely want to run more draws, or about the same number of draws and crits, because you want to make sure you gain hand back, because shadows do sacrifice their own units to Phantom Blast Dragons in order to control the opponent's board and pressure the opponent. So you want to just be able to make up those cards that you sacrifice. Plus, he's a card that, plus you can call Howl Owl from the deck from Soulish Domain, and you're not minusing as hard by calling like 15k shield. As a matter of fact, you're just sacrificing a 5k shield from the deck, and that's not really important. Triggering this is even really not much anyway. And of course, the starter is full bow. I'm so glad this guy's back. Now moving on to grade 1s. The grade 1s are pretty straightforward as well. There's 14 grade 1s, 4 Blaster Javelin, 4 Witch Sage, Black Sage Karen, 3 Soulish Domain, and 2 Nightmare Painter. Javelin and Karen are pretty self-explanatory. Karen is your source of unflip, and she's a great unflip. As a matter of fact, basically just a free combo call off of Dark Dictator, Dark Dismayed Maka, Vodkar if you somehow manage to top that into Karen, and just gain. And he also gains 3k when he's called. You have to call this off against his ability, but once again, this is pretty easy to do, as you have Maka, you have Dark Dictator, and you have Vodkar. Blaster Javelin, when you call this unit, when you have 2 grade 1 regards your lust, kind of must 1, and draw a card in this game is 3k. Just an easy, just like great plus. 3 Soulish Domain. Now, I know a lot of people are running this card 4, and I understand completely why, because basically, the minute you do, you just do 2 uses of her, and then basically just sack all 3 Nimins off for PvE. The only problem I have with this is she's a terrible ride. I mean, she's 5k base. Like, if you have to, like, if 6 shadows go second, and they're forced to ride her, she has to force a trigger to hit the opponent. Now that's could be fine in like certain matchups like OTT or Kagura or etc. But you're also just like not doing damage to the opponent. And the way I see it is, it's just like shadows want to gain as much put on as much damage as they can. Want to put on the pressure. They're controlled right now. So any loss of pressure is just too much. Like, it's too much of a loss, honestly. And also, I also found that when running 4 the mains, once you've used all 3, the 4th one is just kind of there, just eating up a deck slot. So I took out the 4th Soulish Domain for Nightmare Painter. I ran this card at 1, and then I recently took out the 4th copy of Soulish Domain for a 2nd Nightmare Painter. One of Shadow's problems is that it has a problem with using up soul, because there's Karen, there's you use PVD somewhat. What else is there that uses soul? And Vodkar also uses soul. So you want to be able to mitigate the minor loss of soul by having a Painter out. And plus she gains 3k when she's placed, so it's also not a terrible loss either. Just a really solid card in my opinion, and just an important card. You can also use Blaster Dagger, but I felt like he didn't do that much for me in my playtesting, and he's also useless against OTT, which is Shadow's worst matchup. Okay, moving on grade 2. The grade 2s I have 4 Blaster Dark, 4 Darkness Bait and Maka, and 4 Tragic Knife Cathbat. Now before I get into Dark and Maka, I just want to say that Cardfight is honestly one of the best cards ever in this deck. One of the best cards in this deck. So what Cardfight does is when it attacks, for each rear guard that you have more than your opponent, it gains 3k. So say if you have 4 rear guards overall and your opponent has 1, this guy would gain 9k power. That's amazing. It's literally with Cardfight, with Dark and or Maka as your rides, you can make, and the amount of pressure card damage you can gain off of like calling Karen or Javelin or even the main, you can create an amazing rush turn. Shadows has one of the easiest, not easiest, one of the best rush games in Standard right now, and it's all because of this guy just being such an insane boost of power. Next we have 4 Blaster Dark, one of the key pieces of the deck. On placement, you can counterblast 1 and force your opponent to retire one of their rear guards. Obviously bad against Promise Daughter, but that's why you don't activate it in that matchup. Also, when he's on Vanguard Circle and your opponent has no rear guards, you can discard a card and have him gain Twin Drop for the turn. Just overall solid pressure. And then we have 4 Dark Spade Maka. Gotta have the Origin Rare Maka, just too nice. Also the Ren Blaster Dark for spicy value. So anyway, Darkness Painted Maka. So counterblast 1. This an act once per turn. Counterblast 1. Call a grade 1 or less, a grade 1 or lower, a grade 1 or 0 essentially to the rear guard circle. Draw a card and Maka gains plus 5k. Just an easy way to activate like your Karens, Javelins, Emmons, stuff you're gonna call anyway, and just gain a card back from calling her. It's just really solid on my out. You can get away with writing Dark or Maka in this deck. Just don't write Cardfight because that card's just too good to lose early on. Now on to grade 3s, which is honestly one of the more intriguing parts of the deck, actually. And last but not least, we have the grade 3s. We have 3 Dark Dictator, 2 Dark Mage Publicar, and 3 Phantom Blaster Dragon. Dark Dictator is obviously you gain during your turn. He gains 2k power for every regard you have, and that's only on the Vanguard Circle. And then you can counterblast, and then you can counterblast 1, call up to 1 grade 2 or less from your hand to rearguard circle, and that unit gains 5k for the turn, and your opponent has to retire a rearguard. Card. So Vanguard or rearguard again. Soul Blast 1. Look at the top part of your deck and call it to rearguard circle according to your drop zone, and you're gonna honestly just call it, and have it gains 5k. And also at the end of the turn, retire the unit that you call from Broadcard's effect. It's this card is basically like pays like 2/3 of PBD's cost alone, so that's why the card's good. Dark Dictator is like a great sub boss, and honestly, he's the card you want to. And I'll actually get more into him later. Why I have him at 3 and I have PBD at a low 3 and not 4, like every other deck does. So Phantom Blaster Dragon's effect is counterblast 1 and sacrifice 3 rearguards. Your opponent chooses 3 of their own rearguards, not units. That's a misprint, and retires them. And then Phantom Blaster Dragon gains plus 15k power and +1 critical. And then if your opponent has no rearguards, you can Soul Blast 1 grade 3 and deal the damage if your opponent has at 4 or less. Now, the only reason why I'm running 3 of PBD and 3 Dark Dictator specifically is because at regionals, I expect to fight a lot. I expect to see a lot of OTT because it's the most popular deck right now, and it's also Shadow Paladin's worst matchup because Promise Daughter effectively nullifies Blaster Dark. It nullifies one of the important parts of Dark Dictator's effect, and it turns PBD from like just straight up advantage into a -1 for your side if they're playing the matchup correctly, which is putting the Promise Daughter in the back row behind their Vanguard. So why I wouldn't want to ride PBD in that matchup if they have Daughter in the back, because he's just going to neg cards for me. I'd rather ride Dictator because at the very least he's a big beat sick. He's going to either force out PGs or deal damage to people, and you just play the resource game against OTT. It's the most reasonable way I can see I can see Shadows winning the matchup. But, like, basically, to beat OTT, I feel with Shadows you have to rely more on Dark Dictator and your rush and the resource game. and just hope all goes well from there. So anyways, that's my Shadow Paladin deck profile. In the future, expect a lot, either videos from me and also like minor guides. I'm either gonna figure out to post it on a Google Doc or a blog. I'm gonna talk about like the gifts. I'm gonna talk about the clan. I'm gonna go into depth about the clans, and yeah, just look forward to seeing more videos / posts from me. Later, guys. This is Carrot.